Vinod Madhavan is the head of transactional products and services for Standard Bank in Africa, who received today quite a few awards. Can we start by saying what is SIBOS for Standard Bank?
SIBOS is a very important event, especially considering that it is almost 8,000 bankers that come once a year. And it's important for us because one of the biggest issues that I believe we face in Africa is the gap between a perceived risk and real risk. And we look towards participating in SIBOS and IMF to try and address the gap, the perception that Africa is a risky place to operate in.
And in a lot of the discussion and a lot of the panels are about innovation and fintech. Where does the bank stand on this?
Standard Bank, as you saw, is one of the leading banks. In fact, it is the largest bank by asset base in Africa. We are hence aware of our responsibility to be in the cutting edge of innovation, and we have incubation teams that work on, be it fintechs or with blockchain. But there's also another reason why we are particularly involved in that. The biggest issue that we believe exists in markets in Africa, and for that matter, emerging markets, is lack of access to finance, the whole objective of financial inclusion. And we actually believe that in addition to banks and the banking industry stepping in to fill the gap, there's a need for fintechs and the technology coming in as a mechanism to be able to get finance to the unbanked as well as to the SME sector. And Kenya has shown the way with M-Pesa. It's a fabulous way to actually get more and more people into the banking network.
Is your approach the one you mentioned, incubators? Do you also do direct investing in some fintech companies?
We have a mechanism whereby we work with fintech companies in South Africa. This is done across our organization, across the retail part of the bank, which we call PBB, as well as the corporate and investment bank. The participation works right through the whole thing, through mentoring. We have taken equity participations in some of the fintech companies, which we use as a part of our product offering. And thirdly, as a part of the industry effort with other banking providers.
There are two other themes that have been brought up all the time. One is the issue of regulation, and the other is the issue of cyber crime. Are these big issues for Standard Bank and in general for Africa?
Cyber crime, I think, is omnipresent. It's there everywhere. So I wouldn't say that there is something particularly unique to Africa as opposed to, let's say, Asia or Americas or Europe for that matter. The regulation, now that's a real risk. We have seen a clear trend of de-risking where correspondent banks who offer clearing services and trade in markets in Africa, due to the perceived higher risk and the regulation and the regulatory burden on their side, choosing to go away, step away from markets. It's unfortunate because it does not comply, or to my mind, does not kind of align with the financial inclusion objectives that all banks have. One of the key areas of focus for us in SIBOS, all the banks that we talk to during this week, we have been focusing on this, the fact that you have to separate the perceived risk from the real risk.
In general, you find the mood, the atmosphere is pretty positive, optimistic at SIBOS among your counterparts?
I would say cautious optimism is the word. There is optimism. I think people recognize the fact that over the next 4 years, Sub-Saharan Africa is expected to grow by 4.3%. It is the second fastest growing region, next only to emerging Asia. So people see that there is growth, but I think it would be fair to say that there are a lot of headwinds, both macroeconomic as well as regulatory.
And lastly, about the awards. Today you received quite a few awards from Global Finance, regional and country awards for Africa. What do they mean for the bank?
I think it's very important for us. It's a recognition that we see from our key stakeholders, the clients. The way Global Finance goes about giving the awards is they talk to the service providers, the corporates, and the clients. And I think we take this as voice of the client. So we are actually very happy. We didn't win all the awards we wanted to win. Maybe next year.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And thank you.